I wanted to ask about Bukayo Saka because we know there's a new deal that's brewing for him, a massive new deal that's supposedly been put on the table. Reports this morning from some Chelsea sources that Todd Bowley and Chelsea are monitoring that situation, which I'm not surprised by because Bukayo Saka is brilliant. What is the latest with him? We obviously know he's going to try and sign a new deal, but could Chelsea pounce if anything goes wrong?
No, I don't think Chelsea can stop this. I think, if anything, they're being used as leverage as the final points are ironed out around this deal. So Saka is untouchable. Arsenal are not going to sell him in the short term to a Premier League rival. And the player really enjoys working with Arteta, is in excellent form. But as importantly, after the penalty miss and the whole fallout that led to horrible abuse and personal attacks on him, he was really kind of impressed and heart-warmed by the Arsenal family and the way in which they picked him up. And I think that he was lacking a bit of confidence. He was a little bit mentally fragile off the field, I mean, because of everything that had happened. And Arsenal just really went above and beyond, from what I gather, including Mikel Arteta personally, to build back up his confidence. And now he couldn't be in a better place in terms of his football, in terms of his confidence, in terms of his happiness. And he is absolutely intent on staying once all the terms are thrashed out, and Arsenal are not going to allow another club to jump in here from the Premier League. That's not to say that Chelsea are not interested. That's not to say that Chelsea might not try their luck, but that's kind of good for Saka because it can inflate the terms that he gets. So as things currently stand, the framework, if you like, of a contract is there, and it's going to be about 5 years, and he's going to be on, roughly speaking, 200k a week. And that's where there's opportunism for Chelsea, because Chelsea, as they look to clear out players, particularly like N'Golo Kante, who unfortunately is injured again, he's one of the highest earners. Chelsea would be prepared to offer more wages than 200k a week. And that perhaps is where these stories are coming from. That perhaps is where the leverage is coming from. And Chelsea absolutely like Saka, but he's not front of queue because he's not as realistic as other targets that Chelsea are also pursuing at the same time. But what we know is that Todd Bowley wants the youngest and the best players. And as I said before, Todd Bowley also wants players with proven Premier League experience that can slot straight in. And when we talk about buying young, it's not always about for the future. You do get cases where you can buy young and they're for the present. And usually they're elite level players, and Saka is moving in that direction. Arsenal fans would probably argue he's already there, but by elite, I mean world-class elite, not Premier League elite, not improving elite, but consistent elite over a number of seasons. And give Saka a season or two, and I'm absolutely sure he'll be there, and Arsenal know this. So if they do get any significant rivals come in, then Arsenal will very much be billing Saka as untouchable. They're extremely confident that this contract renewal, which will be 5 years, will have no hitches. And the other thing to point out, which I think often gets underreported, is that when Chelsea are interested, that doesn't mean it's for now, because clubs work multiple windows ahead. So why do you express an interest now when you know that a contract is close to Arsenal? You do that either because obviously you're seriously interested and you're trying to hijack it. That's one possibility. But the other possibility, which is more likely, is that you are trying to influence the contract negotiations from the outside. And by that, I mean, if Saka's people know Chelsea want him in a year or two, and it could be the same for Haaland and Real Madrid, then when you negotiate the 5-year deal, does that mean that you put in an exit clause? Does that mean there's a gentleman's agreement? Does that mean there's if we don't qualify for the Champions League, then you have to listen to offers? And all of these things at the Saka representative end can be factored in. And if those clauses or those agreements are not added, then it's at the expense of something else. So it might be, okay, you don't want to allow me to leave within a year or more of my 5-year deal if we don't qualify for the Champions League. So therefore, you've got to pay me 50k more a week as compensation for that. And then you'll get my loyalty. Yeah. So this is what the leverage is. And the leverage isn't only agents trumping up interest that isn't there to get their client a better deal. The leverage is also a club that genuinely wants the player but can't get them now, trying to kind of stick their oar in from the outside in to influence things to make sure that they do have the clearest possible path to the player further down the line. And that might well be at stake here. But from Arsenal's perspective, they see Saka as untouchable. They're absolutely convinced that imminently he will sign a new deal. And from Chelsea's point of view, they really like the player, but not front and centre at the moment in terms of their short-term priorities, but very much on their long-term radar.
Makes perfect sense.